Hey, what's up guys? Yet another retro unboxing for you. I'm running out of these to do. This is one of the last ones I'll be doing, the iPhone 4S. So today marks exactly 7 years since this thing was released to the public. It was announced earlier on October 4th. And in itself, it wasn't really a crazy big upgrade. It was, in the best sense of the word, an S upgrade, just like the 3GS. Basically speed, very minimal hardware changes, mostly just an upgrade for people on an older phone that wanted something a little bit faster than an iPhone 4. But still, I did want to unbox this thing. I do have some fond memories with it. I unboxed this thing on my channel before, and actually the day after this thing was unveiled, Steve Jobs did pass away, so it adds a little bit of a sadness to this phone. And yeah, let's go ahead and explore it. So Blast to the Past, another one. I'm guessing this thing does run iOS 6 since it does have all of the correct icons there. And it did originally ship with iOS 5. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. It was such a great OS. iOS 6 only made it better, but it was very polished. It was so smooth. It was like how this phone should have remained frozen in time with such great performance. So this is actually the last iPhone with a 3.5-inch display, and I do believe this is authentic. I did look up the serial code. It says it hasn't been activated. It even still has the magnetic label over here, so I think it should be good. The actual plastic looks undisturbed. 16 gigabytes. This was the first iPhone to come in a 64 gigabyte flavor, and yeah, like I said earlier, 3.5-inch display. This was the last iPhone to do that. And I like doing this kind of stuff, honestly. It's like a time capsule, frozen in time. And unfortunately, I'm disturbing the tomb of this iPhone 4S. It's a collector's item. I believe I got this thing for around $350, maybe closer to $400. They are going up in value too. Anything with the old, smaller displays definitely is going to be a future collectible. 3G and 3GS for sure. Anyways, very tough to open. Looks very good inside. Look at that. Yeah, that is absolutely undisturbed. Just from the initial impression, I can tell that it is not resealed. Looks really, really good. So this is the 4S. It did have the labels on the back for the FCC. Apple had a little loophole for the Verizon ones where they didn't need to do that on the iPhone 4, but they did have to bring them back for this. Still, one of the best, I think, and most timeless designs for an iPhone, the stainless steel band. This was designed by Johnny Ive. It looks so great. And then you have glass on the front and back. Definitely something that the newer iPhones are inspired by, just a pure material collection here, no plastic whatsoever. Look at that, a little headphone jack visible right there. So yeah, what a great phone. And the crazy thing is, I still see some people out in the wild using these little tiny phones, and I do a double take every time I see it. I'm like, what the heck? Let's go ahead and see if it has any juice left inside. So the iPhone 4 was the first one with the Retina display, 326 pixels per inch. This basically improved upon speed of the iPhone 4. You have a dual core processor for the first time ever. It was a single core. Still has the same 512 megabytes of RAM, and looks like unfortunately this thing is not turning on. I'll have to bring a charger out here, and it's going to take a minute to charge up. I just wanted to talk about a couple things about this phone. It took a while for Apple to perfect the white color on these style phones. I remember the iPhone 4 got delayed in white for so long just because the white color would yellow with time, but as you can see, it's held up so well over the time. Such a beautiful design. And even though it was like glass front and back, fully exposed, for me personally, it was a very durable phone. I've never cracked one of these. I've dropped them so many times. They really, really do hold up. And Apple's classical design, man, it is so nice. What a beautiful phone. I love, love, love the white finish. Let's take a look at what you got in the box with it. Yeah, so your classical older Apple style headphones, actually kind of garbage. Didn't like these. Made your ears hurt. Standard cable, standard block. These like have not changed at all in pretty much a decade. Yeah. And let's see if we got the little tool with this one. Oh, you did. So you still got that tool on the iPhone 4S. This is actually made with liquid metal from Apple. So it's kind of cool. So let's take a look at this real quick. This is my iPhone 4S on iOS 5.1. I believe you can get it down to 5.0. I'm not entirely sure though. So this is the first time ever that you can actually set up an iPhone without iTunes with the setup menu on iOS 5. You did have iMessage here, and oh my gosh, it looks so cute. You have the old bubble styles. What a throwback. Anyways, I specifically remember after buying this thing playing a lot of Angry Birds on it, Doodle Jump. This is when Apple Maps first appeared too on the iPhone, so you did have that, and it was absolute garbage at the time, if you remember. The YouTube application, really cool all around. And then it got updated with iOS 7, and this thing basically went to crap. So I'm guessing it'll be iOS 6 on here. Not too much difference between 6 and 5. Performance-wise, both were still so great, so fluid. Honestly, like, just feels amazing, this firmware on this device. All right, it's syncing, and we should be able to unlock our iPhone here very soon. I'm guessing it's running iOS 6.1 or something. All right, so we are activated, so go ahead and skip through all of this. It's very similar still to today, except Apple has added a bunch of other steps in between. So the most iconic probably feature of the iPhone 4S was Siri. Siri was the new smart assistant. Apple's been working on it for so long, and finally they implemented it into the iPhone. And it worked very well for the time, I guess. Sometimes there were server outages, it would stop working, but for the most part it did work. Now the only thing Apple was being unfair about was saying that older iPhones couldn't run it. And they were perfectly capable of running it, actually. I've made many videos showing people how to install it on old iPhones, even the old iPhone original, and that would still run it. Hey Siri, what's the time in Beijing right now?
It's 9:08 a.m. in Beijing, China.
My HomePod. But yeah, look at that old style of Siri. Like, she had that skeuomorphic design, the shadows, the extrusion, looked really, really nice. And hey Siri, how much smarter are you now versus on the iPhone 4S? She'll never be able to
I can't
answer.
get the answer to that on HomePod.
Nope. She even sounded way different back here too. Oh, by the way, look at that. On iOS 6 or 5, the HUD for the volume was actually transparent. Apple went backwards in time on that. Anyways, let's check out what we're running here. For sure iOS 6, yeah, 6.1.3. This is a Virgin mobile phone. It's still in brand new shape. So if I were to update it, it would jump to iOS 8. Cool. All right, so as you guys know, iOS 6, also very similar to 5, extremely fast. I loved how the app switcher looked, but I hated using it. You'd have to tap it and then X out of apps or minus out of them. And then over here you had your music controls. Here you had volume control and AirPlay control. So it was pretty sophisticated for the time. So I did like that. And to raise the brightness, you did have to go into settings every single time. So that was kind of annoying. I think jailbreaking back in the day was so popular just because of how much more limited the phones were. Like, you literally had to go to settings for so many basic tasks that made no sense, why you couldn't just throw it into a control center, or SB settings, if you guys remember that, slide in from the top. Here we have the notification center with a plaid background. Looks really nice, that skeuomorphic design again. So another big thing about this iPhone was the performance. Obviously the S means speed, and this thing was twice as fast as the iPhone before it, the iPhone 4, and 7 times the graphical performance. So I can't run these games anymore, but when Apple initially announced this thing, they showed it with Infinity Blade 2, and the graphics really, really were great for the time. You know, for an iPhone, they called it console quality graphics, which compared to the PS3 at the time, I guess, was somewhat similar, but no way was this thing anywhere near as powerful as that. Still though, it was incredibly powerful. Let's check out that Geekbench score. And that's the curse with running old firmwares, is you literally just can't. Oh, by the way, the search bar inside of Safari was separate. Just those little things, quality of life updates that Apple added. Nowadays, it's so hard to run a phone with an older firmware. You can't like install anything. So I have to get my Geekbench scores from Safari. Here we go. These are the Geekbench scores we're looking at. 504 for multi-core. Again, this is the first iPhone with a dual-core processor. So that's the first time that that was ever possible, that multi-core score, and 290 single core. From the iPhone 4, very formidable step up. This one also did come with a camera upgrade as well. That's an 8 megapixel camera for the first time. The front was still 0.3, but this was the first iPhone that could ever do full HD video at 1080p. At the time, you know, it was way behind all the Android competitors, but let's go ahead and take a look at that camera compared to the iPhone XS Max. So as you can see, very, very different camera applications, very simple here. You just had a camera and video button. Now you have all those other modes. Very effective camera application. Not much has changed if you really think about it over the years. But so let's see speed at which it takes pictures. 1, 2. So you can take like way more pictures in the time that it takes one on the iPhone 4S even. Go into that video mode, full HD at the time. Look at that crop factor. Like, you can barely see anything. You have to zoom way out. Wide angle lens on the XS Max is so nice compared to it. Just gonna get an idea of some quality, like right here. Yeah, it's very fuzzy, and dark backgrounds don't do very well, noisy. Let's get some greenery in here. No optical image stabilization. Autofocus wasn't that great even. Wow, that's quite the difference from nowadays. Dang, cameras have gotten good on smartphones. So yeah, mostly the wide angle thing is the biggest difference for me, and the much better autofocus. And this was one of the first iPhones by Apple that they started supporting with software for an exceptionally long time. This went all the way up to iOS 9.3.5. In an age where Android smartphones would become obsolete in like 2 years, Apple kept this thing around for 5 years. And more or less, I guess they left it off on a decent note with iOS 9.3.5. Basically, in a nutshell, so the iPhone 4S, it was a great phone, but if you were coming from an iPhone 4, certainly not worth the upgrade. It's just a little bit faster. It was mostly marketing, as it usually always is. And in the case where today the iPhone XS comes out versus the iPhone 10, I think there's much more difference there than there was between the 4 and 4S at the time, yet people still always like to complain about that kind of stuff. Regardless, even though this wasn't such a crazy or hyped release, still wanted to take a look at it. It's very nice to go back and see what we were running back in the day. So 7 years has passed, and 7 years from now we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone XS, seeing how old of a phone it was. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Just wanted to show you this. I love these kind of videos, and unfortunately I only have one more to make with the 5S. And then my retro unboxings are pretty much done. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Check out the other ones if you want a further blast from the past. Peace.